Welcome to the Undisputed Podcast. I'm your host, Joy Taylor. On today's show, where does Jason Witten belong in the pantheon of the greatest tight ends ever? Plus, Dwight Freeney joins the show to talk about the Patriots drama and more. And is Dez Bryant's stock at an all-time low? Skip, Shannon, let's get to it. ESPN reports that Jason Witten will officially retire and join the Monday Night Football booth. He'll retire as the Cowboys' all-time leader in catches and receiving yards, and he made 11 Pro Bowls. So, Shannon, you're a Hall of Fame tight end. How would you rate Witten's career?
Man, this is tough, Skip. This is really tough for me because I played the position, and that I want to be honest, but I don't want people to think I'm hating. So here goes. He's going to go to the Hall of Fame. He had longevity. He had tremendous stats. But let's be real. In his era, Gonzalez, Gates, Gronk, Graham. He got the begin. He was in heart smack in the middle of Gonzalez and Gates. I don't believe anybody thought that he was better than those two guys. And then here comes Gronk. So kind of we got some overlap. So by every stretch of the way, the scale you look at it, however you want to measure it, he was the fourth best tight end in his era. That's just what it is.
Yep.
He won 2 playoff games. 2. And so when you look at it, I mean, since Witten came in the league. Since Witten has been in the league, there are 3 guys, 3 tight ends, play the very position that he plays, that has more first-team All-Pros. Gronk, Gonzalez, and Gates.
Yep.
Normally, the tight end position, no tight end has gone in on the first ballot. They know. I think myself, maybe Ditka, only like a handful of us had to, wait like 3 years. Most of the time, it's like a 10-year wait. So that's what it is. Now, does he belong? Absolutely. You want to say he's the first ballot Hall of Famer? He has the numbers, but if you look at it in the era, did he dominate his era? Did you like, man, he's better than Gates. He's better than Gonzalez. He's better than Gronk. He's better than Jimmy Graham. I don't know if you can say that, Skip, but the number says he should be in the Hall of Fame.
This is tough for me, too, because I'm obviously a fan of the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm a fan of Jason Witten.
Yes.
Is he not one of the all-time greatest guys that you've ever run across?
Yes.
I have not a single bad word to say about Jason Witten. And I'll throw on top of everything you just said, he's the best blocking tight end, not only of his era, but you could make a case he's the greatest blocking tight end ever because he was like another tackle for them in the run game.
Yeah, he's more Ditka Mackey than he is Kellen, Ozzie, myself.
Correct. Well said. So he's going to wind up with the second most tight end receptions of all time and the second most yards of all time. But our man, Tony Gonzalez, he ran away with those.
With that, yes.
And hid.
Yes.
He's so far behind there that he could have played 3 more years and he never would have caught him.
No.
He's 5th in touchdowns among tight ends.
Right.
Pretty good. But then we get to that bottom line that you brought up. Jason played in 8 playoff games, and he won 2 and 6. Now, is he the quarterback? Is he the middle linebacker? No, he can't control all the above.
Right.
Was his team not good enough to win those games? You can argue. Shannon Sharpe played in 18 playoff games and went 13-5 and won 3 Super Bowls. Played in 3 and won 3. Now, was that all? Did you get all the credit for that? Obviously, you don't. But you were there and a big part of all of the above. You also played in 4 championship games. And Jason played in no championship games, okay? So I'm tough on the Hall of Fame. I think it's getting softer and softer on letting people into the Hall of Fame, and I know this puts you in an awkward position because you're in, and so it's just tough to comment on this. But Jason Witten would not be in my Hall of Fame. But my standards are high. Did he change the game? Was he a transcendent player? No, he was a really good. There's that Hall of Very Good that I talk about. He's definitely in the Hall of Very Good.
Yes.
He played 15 years and he missed 1 game with a broken jaw and got 3 plates inserted in his jaw and came back and played the following week. That's it. 15 years.
It's unbelievable.
That's durability, man.
Skip, I played 14 years, but I missed the equivalent of a season with injuries.
Okay.
Missed 12 games one year, missed 3 games another year, sat out a couple of games because we had nothing to play for. So I missed about 16, 17 games throughout my career. So although it says 14 years I played, basically I played 13 years.
So, Jason Witten, if you threw it in his catch radius, he's going to catch it.
Right.
Had really solid, secure, safe hands. Very dependable. But run after catch, no. So, could he take over the game? Could he change the game with breakaway runs? Nope,
no.
not going to do that. But he did make 11 Pro Bowls, and he made 2 first-team All-Pros,
Yes.
which is pretty good, but it's not the best of the era.
Right. Because in his era, it just so happens it's kind of like Drew Brees. Drew Brees is going to get lost because he played the bulk of his career, Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. So basically, if you played in that era, that's what everybody's going to point to because those guys went to what? Like 12 Super Bowls between the two of them.
But Drew Brees won a Super Bowl.
He did win a
So
Super
you're good. You're a made man, right?
He made, but when we talk about him, we still step over him, even though he has that one Super Bowl and 5,000-yard seasons. You look at Gates, 114 touchdowns. Gonzalez, 112 touchdowns.
Yep.
Gronk's going to be somewhere around over 100. If Brady plays a couple more years and he stays with Brady, he's going to be over 100. All I'm saying, Skip, is that when I played in the 90s. It was me and Ben Coates.
Yep.
So that was it. In the AFC, you weren't going to the Pro Bowl if Ben Coates and Shannon Sharpe was healthy. Well, when you look at it, you look at his era in which he played, who other than a Cowboy fan, but if you're objective, would say that Jason Witten had a better career than Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates, or even Rob Gronkowski and where he is right now. Because playoffs should matter. Games should matter. 2-8. He's never played in the conference championship game, Skip. Never. At least Gonzo has that on his resume. Now, he only won 1. I think Gates might have won 1 or 2.
Yep.
But those should matter. And people are like, well, you never played with anybody. Well, somebody got him to those 11 Pro Bowls. Somebody got him those 12,000 yards.
Good point.
So you can't say, and a lot of times people, well, he didn't play with John Elway. Well, John Elway didn't throw me 14,000 yards worth of passes.
Okay. So I always considered Jason a clutch catcher because he made a number of clutch catches, such as in the playoff game 2014 ahead of the Dez game at Green Bay, the one against Detroit at home.
Yes.
It was a big 4th down play, and Romo found his man, Jason Witten. It was a huge play that saved, or you can argue won the game. And then the next year, 2015, the big opener against the rival Giants at Jerry World, game number 1, last second play. Romo to Jason Witten at the goal line, catches it, falls into the end zone, touchdown, wins the game against Eli and company. It looked like, then of course Romo got hurt the rest of the year and it went down the tubes. But he made a lot of those catches, but they're not in NFC Championship games, they're not in Super Bowls. They didn't. He didn't change life with the Cowboys. He wasn't the dynamic leader that you were. He was just solid. He was a stalwart. He came to work and worked hard every day.
And the thing is, Skip, you need you can have a great career, and Michael Jordan had an unbelievable career, but he's known for that shot against Craig Elo. He's known for that walk-off. So what's the signature moment in the biggest of games? And I had, up until the AFC Championship game, Skip, I had some monster games. Had, 13 for 156 against the Raiders in a playoff game.
How do you remember 156?
Because I had went out there the week before, Skip. I needed 121 yards, Skip, to get 1,000. I had 6 for $115 at the half.
These numbers are like emblazoned.
I know, Skip, I know. But I remember talking to my brother. I was like, man, I've had some good games. I said, but I don't have a moment. And it just so happened, 3rd and 6, Pittsburgh. That's the moment. Or the play against the Raiders.
That's the moment to me.
So, sports are about moments and big moments. Jason had a fabulous career, Skip.
He did.
The numbers said he had a fabulous career. But it's just hard for me when I look at him and look at the era in which he played in, because everybody caught a bunch of, Skip, by the time it's said and done, I might be 25th on the tight end all-time reception list with the way they throw the football now.
So, bottom line, I will bet you, because the media votes on this, and he is a media favorite. Want to bet first ballot?
Oh, yeah.
And also, by the time he's eligible, 2023, he'll have been in the Monday Night Football booth for
a good hot set. Big
a
yes.
few years. So, but they do say the greatest ability is availability, and
He was available.
cannot argue with that.
Yeah.
No mercy.
Hey everyone, Joy Taylor here, and before the show moves along, I want to tell you about an exciting new show. It's called the Fox Sports Daily Brief, available only on Facebook Watch. We all know everyone is busy, but the Fox Sports Daily Brief takes the biggest stories in the world of sports and delivers them to you in one video on Facebook. It's all you need to know about sports from the biggest stars at Fox Sports. So log on to Facebook and search Fox Sports Daily Brief and look for new episodes weekdays. Now back to the show.
No mercy.
Dez Bryant is still looking for a new home, and apparently there isn't much interest. Adam Schefter reports that there are, quote, far more teams that are unwilling to pay Dez the league minimum that teams could consider signing him. The minimum for Dez is just under $1 million. Shannon, are you surprised by the lack of interest in Dez?
I am. This seems a little extreme to me, Joy. I've had my issues with Dez play. I never had an issue with him personally. I just watch him play. I know the receiver. I was a receiver before I was moved to tight end. And just looking at him, I don't see the separation. I don't see the consistency in which a wide receiver of Dez pay grade, that he gets the consistent separation and releases off the line of scrimmage, Skip. But for me, is that Dez had an opportunity. The Baltimore Ravens were willing to give Dez a multi-year deal. Dez said no. Skip, if I'm looking for a job, and this one job says, okay, we got employment for you. In order for me to turn it down, I better know something that they don't. I better have a job over here lined up that I'm gonna go sign my name. As soon as I walk out of their office, I'm going over here into this other office and sign my name on the dotted line. Dez, you're in no position. I can see if you had 5 or 6 teams clamoring for your services.
Yep.
You know, there's a report, there are a lot of teams waiting on Dez to get released.
Yep.
That was Dez's agency releasing that, because we can see there's not a whole lot of team clamoring for Dez Bryant. They look at the tape. They see a guy that's not consistently winning on the outside. And then he's not consistently winning, and then he could possibly be a problem on the sideline when things doesn't go his way.
Yep.
So they're weighing that, okay, production is down. If production is down, guess what else is going to be down? Tolerance of your behavior.
Yep.
So I believe that is what's in play here. They look at the tape, and they don't see the same guy, and then what happens when we don't throw him the ball? That could be a problem. But I am surprised, Skip, that someone, minimum $1 million, someone says, okay, Dez, come here on a prove-it contract. Because basically, league minimum for a guy that's under the age of 30, that's a prove-it contract. We need you to prove it. Baltimore was willing to give him a multi-year deal, Skip. He turned that down. So I hope he got something up his sleeve.
So do I. For his sake, nothing personal against him. I don't think either one of us have any personal issues with him, but the tape doesn't lie. Heck, the TV doesn't lie. Just watch it. What did you see? What you didn't see, right?
Yes.
I saw a guy who led the National Football League in drop passes. I saw a guy who the whole offense was basically built around this year, Dez dependent, and more than a fourth of Dak Prescott's passes were aimed at 88, and he caught about half of them. Not enough, as you well know. And the rise and fall of the Dallas Cowboys all sort of swirled around the collapse of 88 this year, over the last couple of years, actually. He's broken down, he's beat up, he's lost confidence, but the problem all these teams are seeing is the less you pay him, the more trouble he may cause you.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he still thinks he's Dez Bryant. And you can't blame him, you can't condemn him for that.
No.
But if you pay him $1 million, the minimum, and then he comes in and you don't throw him 10 targets a game,
Right.
he's not going to be happy.
And plus, Skip, they look at it like this. Hold on, wait a minute now. I'm supposed to believe that if I pay Dez Bryant $1 million on a prove-it contract, he's going to perform better than he did when he was making $12.5 million. So he's making $12.5. He didn't get consistent releases. He didn't play big for you. But if I give him $1 million, he's going to do it now. Teams look at that, and I get it, but I still believe Dez Bryant, Skip, for $1 million. I still believe that's a good buy.
But this league, as you know, is cold-blooded.
Yeah.
And once Dez Bryant turned down the great Ozzie Newsome, who sent him a lifeline.
Yes.
Right here, this is your last stop. I've done it with Steve Smith. I've done it with Anquan. I've done it with receivers in the
Yes.
past who were on their last legs. One last hurrah with Ozzie. No better place for Dez. I said it the first day this story broke. He should go with Ozzie because nobody will handle him better, will treat him better, will put him in a better position to have a last hurrah than Ozzie Newsome.
Right.
And he said no.
He was throwing out teams that had no interest. Oh, man, playing with the Giants, that'd be crazy. Because in his original thought process, where can I go to get back at the Cowboys? Forget the Cowboys. The Cowboys already told me what they thought of me. They released me. So the last thing on my mind is what's about the Cowboys. Let me try to find some place. Okay, team.
Yep.
Who wants me? Where can I go? Say it's 3 teams, Skip. Who has the best quarterback? Who has the best situation that can help that can win? And then I can show. Because you worried about getting what difference does it make if you have 1,000 yards, you win 4 games? You want to win, and you want to be a part of that winning. But for me, I would have never turned that deal down.
Okay.
Because it's too hard.
But you were Shannon Sharpe. You're in the Hall of Fame. You have 3 rings. And you had a chance to go to Ozzie.
Yes.
And you were viewed around the league as a leader and a hard worker.
Yeah.
Dez, no, right? Not a leader, not a hard worker.
Right.
There's no overachieving in Dez, right? He's not hungry. He's not going to come out with the quarterback and catch 10,000 balls from Joe Flacco or whatever, from Lamar
Jackson.
even, because he's been spoiled rotten by Jerry Jones. He got by on his God-given talent, and he had immense talent.
Right.
Which brings me to the sad part of this is I'm not sure I've ever seen a more dramatic fall in a pretty short time.
No.
2014, Dez Bryant is on the cover of Rolling Stone. It's crossover. It's not Sports Illustrated. He's on the cover. This is big. This is national, where you have cut through. And you cut through because of this, because you had a signature celebration.
Right.
Everybody was doing it. Cowboy Nation, everywhere I went, streets of New York, they're all doing this to me. And I loved it because 2014 was a great Dez Bryant year, and you have made the case he might have been the best receiver.
Yeah.
He was right there with Julio or AJ or whoever you wanted to throw in the mix at that point.
Right.
And Jerry Jones said that next camp, you earned it. And they went back and forth, and they did a little arm wrestling, and finally, right on time, right up to the camp deadline, he gave him his big deal. And he regretted it because Dez didn't work very hard from that point forward, and then his body started to betray him.
And that's the thing, Skip. And you have to, for us to have to go back, and there's that magic season, 2014, 16 touchdowns, first team All-Pro. They won the division. He dropped the ball in Green Bay, and so the rest is history.
Wait, he dropped the ball
Yeah,
in Green Bay?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
That wasn't a catch. He dropped the ball.
It was a touchdown pass that should have won the game. And Aaron Rodgers should have another postseason loss.
Did the referees make anybody smell the deodorant? Did they do this or did they do this? I just need to know.
They did this.
And then what happened when they go replay? Because all touchdowns get replayed. And then what did they do?
Well, the league office once again got even with Jerry Jones because they're always getting even with Jerry Jones.
Bayless.
No, he's the Maverick. He's the rebel. We got to put him back in his place. So they put him back in his place with the most bogus call. And then they tried to sell it as he didn't make a football move. He ran 2 steps with the ball.
He did not maintain possession throughout the entirety of the act of catching the football.
He slammed the ball with his left hand, and he's left-handed on the goal line like a running back.
That would have been great if it was dominoes. You could slam it. Tension!
Yeah,
But
that's what he did.
When you got that football, you got to hold on to it.
Over.
No.
It was game over.
But, I mean, let's be real, though. I mean, $1 million is not a lot of money by NFL standards. Dez Bryant is still 29 years of age. I mean, are you telling me that of 32 teams, let's just say they got 6 receivers per team, are you telling me there's 192 better receivers than Dez Bryant? I'm not saying he's top 10. He might not be top 15, top 20. But there's not 192 receivers that's better than Dez Bryant in the NFL currently, Skip.
Okay, but think of the package you're acquiring. The Dez package is you're only paying him something that is insultingly low to him.
He ain't got to take it.
Okay, well, he's going to have to play for $1 million
Yes.
somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you take it, and then you're unhappy from jump because you're like, I'm Dez Bryant, and I'm only making $1 million. You're going to be quick to pout, quick to complain.
He done made a bunch of money, Skip. Go out there on this prove-it deal. Hopefully he can find a team, play on this prove-it deal, and get you another contract. But, I mean, he made $40 million just over the last 3 years. Plus, he was a first-round draft pick, so Dez should be straight. No state taxes in Dallas. I don't know the dude's finances, but prove it.
I don't know.
Prove it.
More trouble than worth. Boils down to that.
I
What
think
did he
he'll end
prove?
up somewhere. It just seems kind of
Yeah.
crazy saying this now, turning down a 3-year deal of $21 million.
I mean, think about that, Skip. You turned down a 3-year deal with no other offers on the table.
I don't know why he did. Because he didn't want to be committed because
wanted
he
a one-year
thought
deal.
he could get 15 or 20 million the next year?
No,
Okay.
no.
No mercy.
We're joined now by former All-Pro defensive end, Super Bowl champion, and one of the greatest pass rushers ever, Dwight Freeney. Welcome to Undisputed.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So good to have you. So let's get to a team that you battled for many years, the Patriots. There's been a lot of drama surrounding them for months. This week, Tom Brady was asked if he feels appreciated and said, quote, "I plead the fifth." Then a report came out that the Patriots almost traded up in the draft for Baker Mayfield. So Dwight, what is your take on all the drama in New England?
Well, I mean, I think over there, I think they're used to winning. They're winning Super Bowls. So it's not uncommon for there to be some type of, I don't know, anxiety or stress there because of that. And also, Tom is, 41. So he's getting older. So they also know that at some point, things will change. So I think there's nothing wrong with kind of planning for the future. I don't think anything's wrong with that. Every other position has to do it.
Yeah.
You've been there. You know what it is. So I think all this anxiety is just, the fact that they didn't win and Tom's getting older.
How much longer do you think he can play at the level he played at last year?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think the level last year was unique. I think he could still have a great year. I don't think his skills are diminished. They're not asking him to do a whole bunch other than, here's the check down, throw the check down. Sometimes you have to read the coverage, but the coverage, once you understand the game, you know it. So that never changes. So as long as they're not asking him to throw the ball 40, 50 yards down the field all the time, which their scheme isn't one of those schemes that they ask him to do that, he should be fine as long as they can protect him. So, I mean, will he have another year like last year? I doubt it. But will he have a good year? I think he will. I mean, he's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time with the same system for how many years now? I don't even know how many, 100 years, whatever, right?
I think, not only does his line protect him, but the league, the way they've instituted the rules, protect the quarterback now. Yeah. See, I think the tension, they lost, and everybody's disappointed about the loss. I think where the friction really starts to come in is between Coach Belichick and Tom Brady. You mentioned it's okay to stop preparing for the future. Well, Tom was okay with that until preparing for the future meant preparing someone to take his job. And then all of a sudden, that's when this all hell broke loose with the report that Seth Wickersham came out that Mr. Kraft instructed Coach Belichick, to find a home for Jimmy Garoppolo to clear the decks for Tom Brady because Brady was becoming uncomfortable because he saw the writing on the wall, what Coach Belichick had envisioned. Is that the bridge between where we are right now and into the future is going to be Jimmy Garoppolo, and I'm moving on from Tom Brady.
Well, I think you have to move on at some point, and regardless if the player feels uncomfortable, tough luck, Welcome to the world of the NFL.
Right.
We all feel, I guess, somewhat uncomfortable at some point, but, he's had a great career. I don't know how many seasons it is for Tom now, 18, 19, or whatever it is. I mean, how many quarterbacks can say that? So I'm sure he knows that at some point it will have to come to an end. I don't know how true the whole report is that he felt nervous about Garoppolo. I highly, highly doubt that. But in the end, you know what? He's a great player, and I'm sure they'll figure it out somehow.
So I want to know what you saw inside Brady's psyche competing against him at the highest level. Did you talk? Did he talk back? Did you have any conversation in those heated moments?
Well, you know what? Me and Tom, I've played Tom. It's almost like he played in the same division.
That's correct.
With me. I mean, we played pretty much at one period of time twice a year. And but he's not a big talker on the field, and I'm not a huge talker. We talk a little bit maybe if we see each other, or before the games or what have you. But we don't really speak too often. We always give each other probably looks. Like, you know what, I was almost there. I'm glad, you threw that ball. And for him, he's like, I got you that time. It's one of those types of things. I think the biggest thing with Tom is his mental game, and as far as stability and as far as his calmness is the greatest attribute that he has. To where as though a lot of quarterbacks get rattled in the quarterback in the pocket.
Yep.
He doesn't get rattled. And I don't know if that's because how comfortable he is in the pocket, how well he knows the scheme and things of that nature. But very few times do I get back there and he's over here trying to duck or dive or get away from me. He's pretty much throwing that ball.
So compare it to what happened to Peyton at the end in Indianapolis, because you were obviously close to that situation. Was that premature? See, there's an owner who said, I've seen enough. He's on the downside. He's got injury issues that our doctors are saying he's not going to recover from. Peyton's doctors are saying he's going to be okay. And your owner in Indianapolis finally said, you know what? I got a chance to draft this kid from Stanford, and I am going forward. It's sort of a Jimmy G situation where Belichick handpicked Jimmy Garoppolo and said, this next coming football season, I want to go forward with him. It's time to send Tom out the back door. And so you patted Peyton on the head and you pushed him out the back door. Was that premature?
I think it was. I can understand it from both sides, though. And obviously, hindsight's 2020. We all know what happened after. But in the moment, we didn't know if Peyton was coming back that year. That whole year, I think it was a lockout year or something like that. And we were preparing for him to come back, and he didn't show up. And we kept thinking he was going to come. Never did. So I think that scared the Colts in saying, okay, is this guy ever going to come back? And at the time, guys really didn't know. I mean, we all had faith in him. We know what type of competitor he is. But, with a neck and that type of injury, that's a tough deal.
Right.
They're talking about one hit, and all of a sudden your career could be over. How do you not plan for the future in that scenario when you're sitting there with the number one pick of the draft and you have an opportunity to get another person? So I could see it from both sides. Obviously, it wasn't the right move because it would have been great for Peyton to be there, and you could still draft Luck, okay? You had to manage that whole relationship, but it could have been kind of like a Brett Favre and Rodgers type of deal, to where as though, 4 or 5 years into it, you're learning from the greatest, you're learning from the best, and then you come in at some point and take over. I think that would have been the best scenario, but I think Luck was such a great quarterback at the time coming out. He could do everything. It's hard to keep him off the field. So, like I said, I could see it from both sides.
But you had a really good football team, still good enough to go win another Super Bowl. And what happened? He should have won two straight MVPs, right? Because Adrian Peterson won the first one.
What was the major? You played with Luck, right?
Yeah.
What's the biggest difference that you see between Andrew Luck and Peyton Manning?
Well, I mean, I think the obvious thing is the mobility. I think, Andrew, when things get bad or rough or tough or uncomfortable, he can use his feet. He can run, scramble. He can run guys over and throw off his, Peyton's a pocket passer. That's it. Peyton ain't running from nobody. Okay? Yeah. So he's in that pocket. He's going to dice you up. If that pass isn't there, he's probably going to get a sack. Right. But he will probably come back and get you for another 20 yards after that. But that's the difference between those guys.
I want to ask you something about 2 years ago. You was on that team, had a 25-point lead.
Oof. Yeah, don't bring that.
What happened? Freeney, what happened?
Oh, my God. Why would you bring that back up?
Super Bowl. The Falcons versus the Patriots.
Yeah. Well, I think it had a lot to do with an experience. I think the experience of the Patriots being in those situations, and I think the lack of experience from us. I think, from a play call standpoint, play making standpoint, I think we could have done obviously a lot better job. When you have that type of lead, now the clock is your friend.
Right.
And I think that we should have probably, obviously looking back on it, using the clock to our favor. We could have ran the ball. I think we had Freeman back there. He had over 100 some odd yards rushing, and there was nothing wrong with running the ball. But I think for us, we were such an aggressive team. And the fact that all year, we went out and drove down the field passing the ball, when we had all the accolades of that, I felt like we were a little bit too confident in that, and rather than being smart and saying, you know what, we don't need to score another 20 or 14 or whatever points. All we need to do is run the ball, manage the clock, and let them try to play catch-up and give them the less amount of attempts or opportunities to get back at it. And I think at some point, the defense had about 90 plays.
Yeah.
I was dead tired. Now, at that stage, I was only used to playing about 20, 25,
Right.
30, and I'm looking at my clicker, I'm like 70. I'm like, man, what is this, 2005?
Right.
Is it possible you were just up against the greatest quarterback ever and he was not going to be denied?
Well, I think that he is one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. I think he's, what do you, in the end, was it championships that define a quarterback as one of the greatest? I mean, but there's a lot of other players on that field and what contributes to being a champion. I think football is the one sport where you can honestly say this isn't basketball. With basketball, it's, you got one guy who play offense, one guy play defense, the same guy play offense and defense and run on the court. It's completely different in football.
So are you giving Belichick more credit than Brady?
I'm definitely not doing that, but Belichick is a mastermind.
Mastermind.
Yeah, he was
he is
such a
a
mastermind that he left Malcolm Butler on the sideline for a whole Super Bowl last Super Bowl?
Well, but look at this. Regardless of what happens with the Patriots, when Brady got hurt a couple years ago, and
2000.
Matt Castle came in, did anything change? Did they stop winning games? Did all of a sudden they fall apart? They didn't. All right. When Brady got hurt recently, and he
Got
been
suspension in the
suspension.
first
Oh
four
yeah,
games.
sorry, suspension. And all of a sudden, it was supposed to be all over, right? They weren't supposed to win a game. They still won. So I'm telling you that, Brady is an amazing, amazing, amazing quarterback, okay? Belichick is an amazing, 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 amazing coach, okay? And those two together has formed this beast of the New England Patriots. So I'm not taking any credit away from Belichick.
But that's the crux of the argument right there. Because you use 4 amazing for Tom Brady, 4 amazing for Coach Belichick. But at the end of the day, we can't leave it like that. We got to pick a side.
One of them wants an extra
yeah,
amazing
exactly.
on their side.
I want to be, Tom's like, hold on, I got the ball. Coach Belichick's like, I'm doing all the shopping. I'm putting all this together. I'm the reason that it goes out there. Somebody wants 51%. Now, that's the crux of this.
Right.
No, we can't know.
I'm going right down the middle.
I'm going to remind you, just the other day, right here in Santa Monica, California, Tom Brady held the mic and said he's not appreciated enough by a franchise for which he won last year's MVP and threw for 505 yards, a playoff record in the Super Bowl. He's going on 41 years of age and he's not appreciated enough.
I think that was probably more of a joke than anything.
I don't
really believe that Tom really believes that he's not appreciated enough in New England. I mean, if you're in one organization in this league to where as though it's not for long and you get kicked to the side whenever something bad happens or whatever, he's been in that team for how many years now? There is no way that you're not appreciated and you've been in one organization for that long. So, I mean, he had to have been joking.
No.
There's no way.
No.
There's no way he's
I think
no
the
way.
organization appreciates him. I don't think he thinks his head coach appreciates him.
And it might be
okay,
something
maybe.
with Robert Kraft, too.
Might be.
Because he's kind of trying to keep everything together. So, what did he call him? The guy that owns the team?
Yeah.
The guy.
No mercy.
According to Jason LaCanfora of CBS Sports, Lamar Jackson will be on the field for the Ravens Week 1. Jackson will reportedly have packages created for him and could be on the field for just a few plays or a dozen plays. Baltimore traded up to the final pick of the first round for Jackson, but John Harbaugh said Joe Flacco is still the starter. LaCanfora also says the drafting of Jackson means that Flacco will not be back with the Ravens in 2019. Dwight Freeney is still with us, but for Shannon, is it a good idea to play Lamar Jackson immediately?
Why not? I believe he has a unique skill set, and the coaches that are there have worked with players with unique skill sets. Colin Kaepernick, Greg Roman was the offensive coordinator. They work with Donovan McNabb. Michael Vick, yes. So this guy has a unique skill set. You need someone with imagination that's going to give him an opportunity. Plus, have anybody looked at the Ravens offense over the last 3 or 4 years? Last year, they were 27th in total offense, 29th in passing offense. What could he hurt? There's only 3 teams worse than they were in the passing game. So why not put him on the field, put him in a situation where he has success? And I believe that's what they'll do, Skip. They'll look what he had success at the University of Louisville. Okay, this is what he can do really well. And let's see what he can do, because they didn't draft him to sit on the bench for the next 5-6 years. I believe, as Jason LaCanfora said, and I know Jason quite well, I believe they're going to move on from Joe Flacco, Skip. if they release him after this year, they'll say $18.5 million.
They will.
You tell me the way that Joe Flacco has performed since he's got this big contract would warrant that kind of pay? I don't think so. So I'm glad, because a lot of times you waste time. Well, we're going to hold him. Hold him back for what? If the guy can play, can help you win, put his butt on the field.
Your thoughts?
Well, I think I'm split, to be honest with you. I think that, their offense needs a guy like that to go out and spark something.
Right.
That the offense is pretty much dead. But on the other side, he's a rookie, okay? I'm sure he has to learn coverages. He has a lot of things he has to learn to be successful.
Right.
He doesn't have that many weapons around him. All right, so if you don't have any weapons and you don't really know coverages and maybe your offensive line is bad, that means you're not going to have a good year, okay, regardless. Now, you might get experience,
Right.
but you're going to be baptized by fire,
Right.
all right? And it might actually hurt you. You might be a little bit, get hurt, run, something bad can happen from being in that situation. So I feel like this. Start Flacco. Have him learn under him, okay? Absorb as much as you can. Now, if Joe is playing bad,
I believe they'll start Flacco.
if he's playing bad, then you can put the rookie in and say, all right, let's see what happens. Let's change this thing up. But I don't think you start in the beginning putting him out there when you have a guy like Joe who has all that experience that he can learn from.
Are you suggesting he play quarterback or play utility back?
No, I think.
I don't know which way you're going with this.
I think they'll use him in a situation. Maybe they use him like how the Steelers did Cordell Stewart.
That's my whole case here, okay? I don't love that for Lamar.
Okay.
Because there was somebody out there whose name was not printed, but who said we want him to play receiver, right?
Right.
Period, end of story.
Right.
So I don't want to see them cubbyhole him as some sort of slash player,
Right.
like Cordell, who's a friend of mine,
Right.
1995 for your Pittsburgh Steelers. Neil O'Donnell is the quarterback. They made it all the way to Super Bowl with slash because Cordell was happy as a late second-round pick to say, okay, so during the regular season, he threw 7 passes, he ran it 15 times, and he caught 14 balls. So they used him in the slot. They put him in motion. They did slot reverses to him. They did all kinds of little slash things,
Right.
creative little ways to get the ball in his hands,
Right.
while Neil O'Donnell was always on the field.
Right.
So I don't know which way you're going here. Are you talking about subbing him in for Joe Flacco
Yeah,
on occasion?
I think you have a couple of series, Skip, where you let him, he's the quarterback, and you put him in a situation where he can be successful, which is a spread offense. Skip, they struggle moving the football.
Boy, it's hard to practice that. Now you're running 2 totally different attacks because Flacco is nothing like Lamar
Right.
or vice versa.
Right.
Nothing like.
And
They're the flip sides of each other.
And
right?
I'm looking at Joe Flacco over the last 4
I
years.
totally agree with you. I call him Joe Fluco. I'm not a fan. I wasn't, but I can't argue with the postseason because it is extraordinary what he did.
Yeah,
in the
they said,
postseason.
well, okay, if we were to get to the postseason,
gotta get
I want
there.
Joe Flacco.
I know.
But in the meantime, we're not getting to the postseason, and we're getting exposed.
So how would you like to be Joe Flacco going into this coming year when at best you're a lame duck, one more year starter, right?
Yeah.
You're just keeping it warm for the kid until he gets a feel for it. Well, to me, you should fish or cut bait. I'm back to that age-old expression, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. And if you're going to mix and match them, if you're going to try, as we go back to Coach Landry once upon a time, tried to alternate Roger Staubach and Craig Morton, like every other play, you're the play messenger to run in.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you the play that you get to run in and run. It will not work. It's a single quarterback offense where you know this.
Yeah.
You have to have a guy who's in control, who gets into the rhythm of the game, and it just won't. You have to go one way or the other. And I don't personally want to see Lamar used as a slash player.
Or
That's
gimmick.
just me.
Yeah. Well, there's a good chance, Skip, if this thing doesn't go well early on, Lamar Jackson could be the eventual starter. Because
This coming year.
season,
I agree with
absolutely.
that.
Because I don't believe they're going to go through what they went through last year with Joe Flacco. Obviously, they didn't have a whole lot of confidence in Ryan Mallett. That's why they were kicking the tires
not.
on a lot of. They kicked the tires on Colin Kaepernick.
They did.
I believe if Joe Flacco were to struggle like he struggled last year, they would have no choice but to put Lamar Jackson in. And because they've had some of the, And maybe, Skip, maybe they don't run these packages in the game, but I can assure you in training camp, they're going to get Lamar Jackson and a package of plays, and they're going to expand from there. So if Joe Flacco is struggling in the regular season, Lamar Jackson is coming in.
Okay. So I hark back to that year under Harbaugh in San Francisco when Colin Kaepernick was handed the reins mid-season from Alex Smith, and they took off and should have won the Super Bowl to me, but they got to the Super Bowl. But Colin had been in the system for, what, a couple of years?
Yeah, he was a second-year quarterback.
Yeah. So at least he had some baptism, not by fire, just by osmosis, you know, just being around. And this, to your point, we both agree, Lamar's got some learning to do about, even though he played in a pro-style offense under Petrino, who's a very demanding pro-style coach, it's going to take him a little while. So this is going to be very interesting to see how quickly, you know, the pressure on Flacco's got to be extraordinary.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is, like I said, this guy here, he's going to run the ball and he's going to scramble around.
Right.
The thing is this is not college. You're not going against guys who are 18, 19, your age. You're getting hit by people who are twice as strong, twice as big. You know, you have all that concussion stuff. I don't know too many quarterbacks who run the ball and scramble and who have not gotten hurt in this league. So that's another risk.
Would you have liked to have played against a rookie Lamar Jackson? Would you feast on that? Would you?
I personally love the quarterback who loves to hold on to the ball, okay? The longer you hold on to the ball is the more opportunity I have to get you, all right? The guy who I can't stand is the guy who gets rid of the ball and doesn't want to get touched.
Tom Brady?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, that guy annoys me, you know what I mean? Because I keep beating my guy, and when I think I have the sack, then ball's gone. And then when I think he's going to throw the ball, guess what? He holds on to it.
How often did a running quarterback frustrate you?
Well, it doesn't frustrate me too much, you know, because the fact of the matter is I had an opportunity. And that's as a D lineman, as a guy who gets after the quarterback, that's all you want. Right. Just give me the opportunity to get to the quarterback. So if he's going to hold on to the ball, trust me and Mathis, we're going to craft up something where we're going to get him down. So.
And the thing is, if you look at through history, Skip, the more mobile the quarterback is, the higher his sack percentage is. Look at Randall Cunningham. Look at Mike Vick. Look at RG3. Look at Cam Newton.
That's true.
All these guys, even Steve Young, all the guys, you're like, well, how is he getting sacked so much? Because while he can get away from something on one side, he runs himself into trouble on the backside.
Yes.
So,
exactly, and that's his default. As a default button for quarterbacks who are athletic, they're going to run for their success. Now, other quarterbacks, they say, okay, I can't run, I'm going to throw the ball away. And that actually helps them out and helps the team out, I think, a little bit more than that guy who wants to scramble and run, unless you're like, Newton, where, all of a sudden you run for 30, 40 yards running guys over. And there's not too many guys like that.
Yeah, we got to leave it there. Dwight, thanks so much for joining us.
No mercy.
The New York Times reported that Washington Redskins cheerleaders had to pose topless at a photo shoot in Costa Rica back in 2013. There was even a group of spectators invited by the team to watch the photo shoot, and they were all men. During that trip, a group of cheerleaders were also chosen to be personal escorts for the sponsors of the team at a nightclub. The cheerleaders said there was no sex involved, but they felt the team was, quote, pimping us out. Shannon, what's your reaction?
Skip, if this is true, this is unacceptable, and the NFL needs to step in. Clearly, but I'm not surprised because Washington, they seem to be tone deaf with this name. So I'm not surprised Daniel Snyder hasn't said anything about this, but this is unacceptable. The cheerleaders are a representation of your organization. Now, obviously, Skip, if you go to a secluded beach or a secluded location and you're going to do topless photos, obviously you did that for a reason. But to invite men to watch as you do this, that's unacceptable. I get it. Okay, you go to Costa Rica and you suite holders are major sponsors. You're going to go through have this elaborate dinner. If you want to invite, say, cheerleaders we're having the sponsors, if you want to come, we'd love to have you because you're a part of this. But to request that they go to be almost escorts, what is this? This is not this is not a Playboy model shoot, Skip, where the women get top. These are representations of your cheerleaders. And then they had an ad, I think in 2009, where 5 lucky winners would win Redskins cheerleaders to wash their car. One man asked another if he would like the cheerleaders soaping up and scrubbing off. What the hell is this? Girls Gone Wild? This is an NFL. This is the NFL, and you got this going on. The NFL is going to have to look into this, and they need to come down with a steep fine on Washington. And whomever is in charge of the Washington cheerleading squad, they got to go. This is unacceptable, Skip. You don't. I can assure you, these women did not sign up for this.
I would say not.
Well, I'll start by saying none of this is surprising. Literally not one detail that I've heard from anything that's been going on with all of the NFL cheerleader issues that have been circulating in the news lately is surprising to me. It's not just this Redskins report. There was a lawsuit with a Miami Dolphins cheerleader and a Saints cheerleader. And they've actually offered to settle for $1 and a meeting with
Goodell.
Roger Goodell. So to me, this is the NFL's fault. And for the life of me, I can't understand why, for once, they cannot be ahead of something instead of being reactionary to something that is, to me, so obvious. Now, I come from a different place, I suppose, because I covered the Miami Dolphins cheerleading tryouts for several years. And I know many cheerleaders. I have some people who are very close to me who are former cheerleaders who have gone on to great careers. And obviously, these are bright young women who are in school, who are dancing and want to continue dancing professionally. And this is a dream for them. And it's a very rigorous process. There's shows about it, Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. This is a very prestigious thing that teams want to be presented as such. And they portray it as if they want these women to represent the team and the NFL in a certain light. And then in the same token, you put them in these situations that are absolutely ridiculous. Now, each different team has different policies, which is the main problem. There needs to be one union and one central figure that uniformity that controls what goes on with the cheerleaders. Because, like you said, they are representation of the team. They go overseas and entertain the military. They are involved in the community. When players can't go to certain events, which we know the NFL teams are a huge part of the community that they're in. Players can't go to everything. Every request that the team gets to have representation there, the cheerleaders go, and they're a big part of that. And young people look up to them. So this idea that, they ask for it, they're sex objects, they deserve it in some way. There's a complete lack of self-awareness here, and furthermore, a complete imbalance of fair practices in business and workplace etiquette. Players are held to a completely different standard than the cheerleaders are held to. Cheerleaders are not allowed to fraternize with players in any way. So in some cases, speak to them, have any communication with them, make eye contact with them, or they'll be fired. But players are not held to the same standard. That's definition workplace imbalance.
Can't post anything on social media. Can't like social media.
They ask for these women's entire identity and lives, and then they're not compensated as such. So to me, it's a simple solve. Just make it all uniform. Put someone in charge who can make the situation fair, compensate them fairly. This is a job, and you're representing $1 billion entity. No, not just a team. You're representing the NFL. So the idea that this situation, especially with the Redskins, which is obviously the details of the story, are to someone who doesn't understand it, completely insane. And it is. It's impractical and ridiculous. But it's not surprising. It's just disappointing.
Okay, for me, it was shocking, but I haven't followed it nearly as closely as you have lately. But for me, that this happened in 2013, I go way back to the evolution and the genesis of these cheerleaders, which was the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders of the 1960s, when that ownership group said, hey, let's take those high school cheerleaders and those outfits and let's make them Vegas showgirls. Let's use cleavage and bare midriff and short skirts, right? Let's do Vegas. And it was reported that early ownership group drilled a hole, which became a peephole, into the dressing room of said cheerleaders so that they could watch them dress and undress. That's what was happening then in the 1960s. So if this had happened in the 60s or the 70s or even the 80s, I would not be surprised. But this just happened 5 years ago. And again, there's no Me Too movement then. Maybe we've had a complete sea change in our world for the better. But to me, that Daniel Snyder presides over an organization that would do this is outrageously wrong. And, he could probably declare that he had no knowledge of this.
He doesn't get to say that.
What is it? Plausible deniability.
But here's the problem that he
Yeah.
runs into, Skip.
Yeah.
In 1999, when he brought the team, he brought the cheerleading squad in-house.
Okay.
Before then, it was operated independently. So he can't say he doesn't have any knowledge because it's under his roof.
Okay, he has to bear the ultimate
Absolutely.
responsibility, and this team has to bear responsibility. This is so out of bounds for a commissioner who cares most about the image of the
Yeah.
National Football League, and if there's even the appearance of impropriety with Ezekiel Elliott, you're gone for 6 games. Boom. They need to lose a draft pick for this. This is outrageously wrong. I can't believe this happened in the 2000s. You know, this on his watch. Shouldn't you lose a draft pick for this?
You, we got sponsors, and you guys need to go with these
What?
men to, for real?
Well, they're exploiting these girls. They're
Exploiting.
putting them in a situation. It's so easy for someone to say, well, why didn't they just say no? This is your job. Your boss is telling you this
To
is something you're
post
required
topless?
to do in order to
Post
keep your
topless
job.
in 2013?
No,
I'm
pose-
just,
some of the women probably didn't have a problem posing topless, but they didn't anticipate having an audience.
Well, they were also not presented with any of this as if it was
Right.
an option.
Right.
Their passports were taken. It was not a suggestion. It was a
the Redskins got to pay
demands.
for this. And I'm not talking as a Cowboy fan. I'm just saying for the sake of the image of the National Football League, somebody's got to pay
Man,
a
read
price.
this, to see all this stuff, this is
No,
ridiculous.
the details of it are ridiculous, and just the process that these women go through, it's the details are ridiculous. There's no other way to say it. But the bottom line is, it's the NFL's fault. There has to be some sort of institutional control over the situation. I can't put blame on any of these girls. If your boss comes to you and asks you to do something, and you're in a compromised position,
Yeah.
what are you going to do?
Yeah.
It's very easy to say, oh, I would never do that. Well,
Yeah.
would you? You don't know.
Of course, when you're on foreign soil and someone takes your passport and says, okay, do this.
Oh, and they weren't paid for it. They weren't paid for their week there.
Oh, man.
No mercy.
Thanks for listening to the Undisputed Podcast. I'm Joy Taylor. Keep an eye out for the weekend edition of the podcast tomorrow morning, featuring the best discussions and segments from this week. We'll be back with more Undisputed on Monday morning at the same time, 9:30 Eastern. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Fox Sports 1 of 1.